The Beyond the Fame podcast is fed by Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza never cuts corners. For menu and locations, visit LidoPizza.com. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime title sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Upcoming featured entertainment includes Bret Michaels' Birthday Bash on April 11th and Earthquake on April 12th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The Zac Brown Band performs live at the MGM National Harbor in Oxon Hill, Maryland this Friday, April 4th. I caught up with the Grammy-winning band to break down their biggest hits, favorite deep cuts, and one member's inspiring fight against ALS. Hey, Zac Brown Band, all you members, hey, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Jason.
Thank you.
We are talking because the awesome band is coming to MGM National Harbor on April 4th, right outside the nation's capital. And then if you happen to miss that, there's another one in Charlottesville, Virginia, I believe, the next day on April 5th. But last time I spoke with the band, I caught up with y'all at that Grammys on the Hill event on Capitol Hill. So that was Zach. And then Coy Bowles and Clay Cook called in, and I combined them, put it up. That was our most downloaded episode ever. So the public loves the Zac Brown Band. This time we're talking to three different members, as you can see. So take turns, going around, introduce yourself. Maybe just say your name and the instrument you play.
Well, the good part about our band is there's enough of us where you could get three of us on 4 different times. Yeah. You can have 4 podcasts. I'm Jimmy DiMartini. I play the fiddle.
John Driscoll Hopkins. I'm a singer, and I play just about everything except the bass.
I'm Caroline Jones, and I'm the newest member. These guys are 2 of the founding members. So you got the oldest member and the newest member on here. And I play like hop utility. So I play acoustic, banjo, some keys, kind of whatever they need.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to welcome the band back to our area. I've seen you all a bunch of times, and this tour kicks off in Nashville on April 1st and 2nd. So we here in DC are the second stop on the tour. So it's fresh out of the gate right after the main, and you got to do Nashville. That's where country's, that's the Mecca. But why'd y'all pick DC to help launch this thing as the next one? I mean, we love you here, but why did you guys pick us?
We've always had a great following up there. Anytime we're in the mid-Atlantic region, DC, I don't know. They've always turned out, and we always have some of the most energetic shows when we play up that way. So what better place, to start your tour than with that energy you can get back from the crowd that they give every time in that region.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, but I feel like the first time we played Nationalist Park was with Dave Matthews Band years and years ago. And we, like Jimmy said, we've always had a really good fan base up there.
Matthews is from Virginia, so that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But wow, yeah. I mean, not many bands can play at stadiums, but Zac Brown Band is one of them. I think I saw you all with Kenny Chesney up in Heinz Field, the Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium. So I've caught you all over the country. But it's a rocking show, everybody. If you're listening to this and you've never seen them, what are you waiting for? What are you doing? What have you been doing the last 20 years of your life? Get out there.
Right.
It's always a great show. Well, obviously, we'll hear all the greatest hits, and maybe we can go into some of them, later in the interview if we have time. But I want to, allow you all to plug your most recent stuff. Your EP, No Wake Zone. I guess a couple tracks on there, Tie Up and Two Blue Chairs and You. But tell me about the Jimmy Buffett tribute, Pirates and Parrots. Sadly, we just lost him, and I can't think of another band to carry the torch of that, beach type songs than you all. So I don't know which one of you wants to take it, but yeah, why was that so special?
Caroline, you have multiple connections with Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, I do. What makes that song so special is Zach's genuine admiration and friendship with Jimmy that he had and has. And, as you mentioned, there aren't that many bands out there now or artists out there that are carrying the torch of not just a musical catalog, but a lifestyle and a way of life. And that's what Jimmy was able to capture so well, arguably better than anyone has. And I knew Jimmy. I actually toured with him as a solo artist. I was opening for him, and he took me under his wing and was a great mentor of mine. And he was just an extraordinary character. There will never be another like him. I mean, he was so creative, so brilliant, like a brilliant business person, but he never lost the creativity or the authenticity or the playfulness. Like what his brand is who he was. And that's very hard to maintain over decades in a career in an industry like this. And when he was 73, 4 or 5, and I was touring with him, he was way more engaged and creative than half the people that I know in Nashville in their 20s and 30s who are already like jaded and pessimistic and kind of over it. And he was just till the very end, blazing the trail of creativity and all different businesses and authenticity. And so I think Zach really admired that and connected with it. And I think Jimmy probably saw that in the Zac Brown Band. And that's part of the reason that he collaborated with us and took us under his wing, hopefully. And so it's a very meaningful, really deep song for Zach, for all of us. And I know when we play it live too, that a bunch of fans who are fans of Zac Brown Band because of Jimmy, that it really touches a whole generation, a whole group of people in the audience.
I love how you struck a chord there, Caroline, with saying his brand is who he was.
Yeah.
That's very much the same with us. Our brand is who we are as well. And there are very few things that people would notice about us that are inauthentic. And I think that we learned that from Jimmy early on, and we've always strived to be authentic.
It comes across in both of his and your all's music. I mean, we had him on this show. I met him in person. He came to National Theater. He had turned his life into like a Broadway musical, and they showed
yeah.
it. But I agree with everything you were saying. He was so energetic and so the entrepreneurial spirit behind it all. He was always like, "What's the next path I can blaze here?" It was great. But you all are the same. Like, yeah, I mean, you could take Toes or Knee Deep, and he could have recorded. Well, actually, he did record. He did Knee Deep with you. So yeah, there you go. There's very few that can kind of carry sort of that torch. Awesome. Well, rest in peace and come out to this show. All right. So that's the new album. So I'm sure we'll hear that at National Harbor. In terms of like the greatest hits, I'd like to go around the virtual room here in terms of the set list. Is there a song that for each one of you, I want you to name a song that you would, fight tooth and nail, to make sure was on the set list? You'd be heartbroken if one particular song from the career wasn't on there. So I don't know who's Jimmy. You want to go first?
Yeah, it changes throughout our career, but for me, I feel like we've got to play Colder Weather every night. And we have a lot of songs that have high energy. We have a lot of beach songs, we have some party songs, some good time songs. But for me, it's the song that you can slow down and play quietly in front of 10 people or in front of 10,000 people, and it still goes over the same, and the song just speaks to everybody. You can just see it in their eyes. They all have, their own story of the way that the song touches them. So, and it also gets really big. And so I just feel that energy of everybody in the stadium looking back, or the club, and it's just the same regardless of how many people are there or what show you're doing. And that song just has to be in the set list for me.
I mean, that is such brilliant visual storytelling. And I think I pointed out to Zach last time, but the night is black as the coffee he's drinking. Like the word, it's poetry in that. And just the theme of it, the gypsy soul to blame, but born for leaving. Like there's just that whole Ramblin' Man kind of vibe to it.
Yep.
But it's a great pick. All right, Caroline.
Well, I am a newer member of the band, and so I joined the band. I was a fan for years before I started opening for the band or joined. So this is a tough one for me. I like some of the deeper cuts, and I am always excited when they are in the set list. Like Sweet Annie is one of my favorites.
It's another jam. Yeah.
There's a song called Day for the Dead that's off the Grohl sessions. And what I love about, for example, a song like Day for the Dead is there's no other band who writes songs like that are so dynamic arrangement wise. And so those two stretch out on those live when they have such a beginning, middle, end, and so many surprises arrangement wise. That's really exciting for us live. And anything with an a cappella breakdown, I really enjoy because I love singing harmony.
Yeah.
And that's always been, as a fan of the band before I joined, that's what I always loved the most about the band was the harmonies. So I would say those two.
Every song has an a cappella breakdown.
That's the formula.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. How about you, Hop? Is there one? I know it's a hard question. There's no cliche answers, or it can be a deep cut, whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm heartbroken every night because my favorites aren't on the set list ever.
It gets scratched off every time.
Yeah. Well, they've been on the set list in years past, but I think my favorite one, ever since I've known Zach from the early 2000s before I was in the band, is Junkyard, and then more recently, Let It Rain. From the Grohl sessions. I just love that song. And as far as the set list, if we're gonna list off some hit songs, I think "Goodbye in Her Eyes" is probably my favorite one. It has been for a long time. My favorite.
You co-wrote it.
Well, it does strike a chord in me, and I did write a little bit of it, but I just love the way that it builds and gets really big, and it's just a perfect dramatic piece. And admittedly, that's kind of the same thing I like about Junkyard and Let It Rain. They're just really dramatic, bold pieces.
All good picks all the way around the virtual room. Thanks. And I love it because people tune in. They're hoping one says a couple of the hits and they're hoping some other deep cuts. And so you satisfied all wings of the fan base with that one. All right. Well, we really teased the show and the set list pretty good. So, before we run, I would love to do a little sort of, chronological history, backstory of the band type stuff. So I know Zach formed it in 2002, was it? Like after he was at University of West Georgia. I guess Hop, you or Jimmy, you've been here with the band sort of the longest in this room. So either of you want to relay the short version of how the band formed together right down in Georgia?
I'm kind of the band historian. But, Jimmy joined in November of 2004, and I joined in February of 2005, and we didn't really name it Zac Brown Band until the summer of 2005. So Zach has been playing around Atlanta since the 90s, but Zac Brown Band was an entity in 2005, and not before. His album that he put out that I recorded with an earlier version of Chicken Fried, whatever it is, Junkyard, that came out in 2003, and he sold them for a while, and it has never been on iTunes or anything like that. So, but officially 2005, officially Jimmy is the oldest living member of the band.
Well, it was about the same time.
Yeah, Jimmy and I were working together in other things. We were in a play. We were playing with our friend Francisco, and then Jimmy jumped in. Zach came to the house and worked on a song. I jumped in, and it has been a roller coaster ride ever since.
A quick funny story about Hop recording Zach, and this is even before I knew either of them. Hop was he would record Zach, and Zach would be like, well, give me like a rough mix of something. And so Hop would like print out this like rough mix. He didn't mix it or anything, and it'd just be on a CDR with like a printed out label, you know, that he used to do. And Zach
CDR,
would,
you're taking me back with
yeah,
even that
CDR.
nomenclature.
And Zach
There
would
were
go to the,
CDRWs too, remember?
yeah, that's right. Zach would go to the bar that night and he'd start selling them. And Hop was like, dude, you can't sell those. Like I haven't even like put the finishing touches on any of them. He's like, oh, it's all good.
I can hear Click Track on that song.
Oh, that's great.
He was like, he would sign them and put his phone number on him.
That's
A
awesome.
couple of years before he changed his number, the people were calling him randomly. Um, yeah,
I got it off
that's
your CD. Oh,
yeah.
that is so great. And by the way, you're talking to one of the OG fans. So obviously, most people remember when The Foundation came out in 2008 as the first official studio album. But I was there back when you guys were talking about this, whatever that early, I guess it was homegrown in 2003, 2005.
Yeah.
We had a buddy that went to school down at Clemson. So somehow he found a song. And then my
Mm.
buddy Ryan up here, and we were driving around in Ocean City, Maryland. He downloaded a bunch off of MySpace, I think, if that was even possible. And
Fire,
we just were
probably.
riding around picking crabs, you know, drinking beer, Ocean City, Maryland. We're like, who is this Jimmy Buffett style country band? This is awesome. So yeah, bow down. Even from the beginning, you guys were great right out of the gate.
Awesome. Thank you.
You know, we did our chicken fried with Old Bay, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
anyway, all right. So that brings us to The Foundation. That's the big one in 2008. I guess Hop, I guess you co-wrote Toes, right? Jimmy, you did. There's a great fiddle section on You Got Whatever It Is, and also Highway 20 Ride. That's a really good fiddle one. I
Yeah.
also had Free.
Thank
Also
you.
had Chicken Fried. Like it's amazing how many big hits were on that. But yeah, I mean, I guess Hop, if you remember writing Toes with Zach and the guys, do you remember? Did you actually have toes in the water? Was your ass in the sand?
No, Zach got a call from Wyatt Durrett, and the title was immediately born somewhere around 6 in the morning on a crazy night that Wyatt was involved in. Zach brought Sean Mullins to the studio to record this idea. And that's where Sean and I worked in some of our ideas and got co-writing credit. And that's the same day that Zach said, I'm looking for a bass player. Do you want to sit in? And I was like, you know, I'll sit in as long as you need. And 20 years later, here we are. So Sean and I were excited to be a part of that. But it started with Wyatt and Zach.
I mean, it's just we literally could do a whole podcast on every one of these albums, so I'm gonna have to move through them a little faster. But man, every one of those songs I just listed is like an instant classic for me. And Chicken Fried, I mean, it describes all of our favorite things. Who doesn't want a pair of jeans that fit just right, or a cold beer on a Friday night, or maybe according to your story, it sounds like 6 a.m. Might have even been Saturday morning. But that album is an all-timer. And of course, I guess right off that you win the Grammy for Best New Artist in 2010 because that was such a big effing deal in the country. So what does it feel like to forever be etched in history with it goes Amy Winehouse, Adele, Zach Brown Band? That's not bad company.
That is crazy to look back on, isn't it, guys? I mean, like Adele and Amy Winehouse, I don't know how they were there and performing and winning, but it's nuts to hear it now.
Caroline might have been in high school then.
That was 2010. No, I was in college. Thank you very much.
Okay.
The thing about Best New Artist is you can only win it one time. Every other Grammy, aside from Lifetime Achievement, you can win if you have the best record, the best song.
Sure.
And it really does feel good. Sometimes people feel like it's the kiss of death, but for us, it was an amazing propulsion into the world of music and not just country radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, It wasn't a kiss of death for you all. It was a stamp of approval because you were here to stay. And I remember being blown away how well you followed it up with You Get What You Give, the second album, because there's the aforementioned Knee Deep, the Jimmy Buffett. I Ain't in No Hurry Today. Keep Me in Mind. Colder Weather, as you mentioned. Grammy winning again as she's walking away. The Alan Jackson collab that won the Grammy. Let's ask Jimmy on that one. I feel like that is to me, when I think of a Zach Brown quintessential fiddle song, I think of that little piece after the chorus of As She's Walking Away. But why is it so fun to play night in, night out?
It's just a great melody. I mean, it's just I think Zach actually whistled that melody that he just had in his mind, and he plays it on the guitar. So it's basically just repeating the guitar, but it's so simple, and that's what makes it so great. It just sticks in your head, and when you hear it, you automatically know what song is coming up. But that album, You Get What You Give, was kind of the first. That was kind of the first Zach Brown Band album of the current band that we have right now, because we had Clay and we had Coy and we had Sweets on that one. Foundation was Hop and I and our older drummer and a different guitar player. But by the time we had You Get What You Give, that was kind of our sound. We had, Clay playing Hammond organ on everything, and more vocals and harmonies and a little more, it was a lot fuller than the Foundation sounding, and the arrangements were a little more complex. And so I feel like that one is where we really found our footing.
Absolutely. Here to stay. Well, I know we're up against the clock, so we can't do deep dives into all of them. I'll just list a couple of the big ones in the list for that third album, Uncaged, wins another Grammy, this time Best Country Album. That includes Hop's favorite, Goodbye in Her Eyes, and Caroline's favorite, Deep Cut, Sweet Annie. Jekyll and Hyde with Homegrown and You Make Loving You Easy. God, these are just so great. I'm just geeking out. Welcome Home, The Owl, The Comeback. Everybody pick them up. We don't have time to go into all of them. But I did want to take a second before we run from some philanthropic personal stuff. I see your hat, Hop. Why don't you tell us about Hop on a Cure?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because, I was diagnosed with ALS in December of 2021, and given 2 to 5 years on average to live. And in May of 22, we launched Hop on a Cure. Hop on a Cure is a 501c3 dedicated to funding research to find a cure for ALS. And I'm very blessed to be a very slow progressor. I'm entering my 4th year with this ridiculous, relentless disease. And I've already had friends diagnosed after me that are gone. And it can't be stressed enough that ALS is not incurable. ALS is grossly underfunded. So what we're up against is a motor neuron disease that we expect to see increase in cases by 70%, not 17, 70%.
Whoa.
In the next 15 years. And we don't know why. We don't know why it's coming for us, but it's a close cousin to Parkinson's and dementia. It's all motor neuron failure. And these diseases 100 years ago were almost unheard of, and that's why they're considered so rare. But these days, they've had an eruption of cases, and we don't know if it's the bad food that we keep being fed, or if it's our environment, or if it's toxins in our water, or a combination of all of those things. Those are all guesses. We do have over 60 reversals in ALS, but no common thread, no reason as to why these people got better. So that does give us a little hope. But when you see a triathlete reduced to no muscle structure at all, you realize it's not just the it's coming for healthy people, you know.
Right. Yeah, the famous story was Lou Gehrig couldn't even pick up the awards that they were giving him, you know.
Yeah, and he's a world-class athlete.
Yeah.
I'll also just add, if you don't mind, that it's been really inspiring standing beside Hop, all of us as a band, these last few years, because obviously it's a devastating diagnosis, and Hop has been so focused on turning his platform, turning his focus outwards to try to shed light on this cause and on this disease. And I think maybe he's too humble to admit it, but Hop on a Cure is making really big strides in ALS research. And as he mentioned, it's not an incurable disease, and they are close to a cure. I read somewhere, Hop, correct me if I'm wrong, that they could have one in the next 5 or 10 years. And so this is something that he's really moved forward, not only in his work off stage, but just by standing on stage every night. Like, I could cry thinking about the people in the audience who know someone with ALS or who have ALS, for looking up at him still singing and playing guitar and standing on stage. And that is super inspiring for people.
You're an inspiration, Hop. You really are. You really are.
I'm just putting my feet on the ground as long as I can. And I appreciate this band and all the support that we have been given. And Hop on a Cure is making strides. We've granted over $4 million in research grants. And the movement that Caroline is talking about is, some people believe that 2030 is an attainable date. Treatments that could at least stop the disease when it's diagnosed, and then hopefully reverse every case. But until then, we're just gonna keep on fighting.
Yeah, keep up the fight. That would be amazing if that could happen by 2030. But in the meantime, keep up the fight. And you're coming to the Washington, D.C. area where so much research is done, and they got deep pockets here. So come on, if you're listening to this, folks, please donate to Hop on a Cure. It's the most important thing you could do. Well, and your music. You've touched so many lives with your music, and now with this, it's just great. It's just great. So keep up the good work. All right, everybody. You've been generous with your time. I really, really appreciate it. Again, it's the Zac Brown Band at the MGM National Harbor on April 4th, then down in Charlottesville, Virginia on April 5th. So get your tickets now. Thank you so much for doing this. This was a great conversation.
Thank you, Jason.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.